Hi, Adam Mills here with Royal LePage, and welcome to our Facebook Live series, Divorce Isn't a Bad Word, Navigating Uncoupling. My team and I have seen over the last few years how much of a toll COVID has played on people's relationships, and as a result, we wanted to put together a great resource or a library of videos for people going through the uncoupling process to act as some kind of a resource or guide that they could lean on. So today's show, I'm very excited about it. It's called Court Alternatives and How to Have a Nice Divorce. And joining me today is Natalie Picard, who is an accredited mediator and collaborative lawyer. So I'm going to read out Natalie's bio, and then from there, we're going to just dive right into things. So Natalie Picard is an experienced family lawyer, accredited mediator, and collaborative practitioner. She co-founded Alt Divorce because she wanted families to have better options and support during their separation and divorce. Alt Divorce is a full-service family law firm which serves clients in a unique way. One of these unique services and ways they serve their clients is called enhanced mediation model. And we're actually going to dive a lot deeper with Natalie into that a little bit later on. And based on her experience, Natalie decided that she wanted to help families go through a separation with dignity, respect, and in a cost-effective way. So Natalie, thank you again so much for joining us and being on the show. I know you have a very busy schedule, and I know that you have a ton of good information to share with us. So again, thank you so much for making the time to do that.
Well, thank you so much for having me on these series. This is a wonderful idea that you're doing, and I'm sure it's going to be extremely helpful for families. That's one thing I find is families don't know what all the options are. And they may embark on a process that's not the right process for them. So, and one of the things I wanted to add from my bio is also I'm a non-adversarial lawyer, which means that I'm not going to send nasty letters to the other side. I usually pick up the phone and I talk to the other side, and I try and find some productive solutions for the parties, the separating parties.
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of this stuff, like, when, I mean, obviously I know you and I know the process now, but, before that, take myself back out of that, I used to think of, like a lawyer in a separation or divorce, it was, boxing gloves were on, and it was, like a big fight in a courtroom, like that you'd see on TV. But, the more I learned from you, the non-adversarial approach, it's the complete opposite of that. And one thing that, so you say you specialize in mediation and collaborative law. So I think it'd be good. I mean, if I step back again before meeting with you and speaking with you in the past, I honestly had no idea what collaborative law was or what that term even means. So I think maybe to define that or give people here what what is collaborative law?
Well, collaborative law is, first of all, if you want to do collaborative law as a party, you need to have a lawyer who is trained in collaborative law. So we have special training. We use some of the techniques that mediators use, and everything is based on respect and dignity, which is very different from an adversarial process. So that's a really good start. Another thing that is very different from the traditional processes is that the parties sign what's called a participation agreement, where the lawyers and the parties agree that they won't go to court. What does that mean? If ever one of the parties decides that they want to go to court, both parties have to start with 2 new lawyers. So, and that also takes away the need or the want. People want to hide their needs or their wants during the process when they do a traditional process, because they're afraid, oh, if I say what I want, well, my ex might use that against me. But that's not the case in collaborative law. There's no need for that anymore. So people can be frank. We can put our cards on the table and discuss openly about what's best, not just for one person, but for the 2 parties and the entire family. It's a really wonderful process. I love collaborative, and I also love mediation.
And so in the past, if you step back into your past when you first got into law, I mean, were you always collaborative, or did you start in more of a courtroom setting and a, you know, adversarial setting, and then you said, you know what, this is crazy, I'm not doing this anymore, and then you shifted gears?
That's a wonderful question, Adam, and it shows a lot of it insight clever on your part. Yes, and actually, I did 2 years of traditional law. I was a criminal lawyer, a family lawyer, and also in Timmins, Ontario, we had 2 family courts a week. In Ottawa, you would only have one level of court. So I was basically living in court every week. That's all I did is court and fighting. And as we're trained in university, you graduate with 2 boxing gloves and off you go. And that's what, and I know it sounds really funny, but that's what it is. It's you knock the life out of the other party, and in the end, there's a winner, there's a loser. The other party is depressed, has run out of money, is filing for bankruptcy. It's really not a way to live. So I just quit. I quit doing law altogether for a while, and I came back to, not so long, I came back to Ottawa, and that's where I learned about collaborative law, family law, in a non-adversarial way, and also mediation. And it was just wonderful for me because it brought me alive, and I found that there were solutions, and also solutions that met my values and the way I wanted to practice in a different way, and in a way that better serves families, and ways that are more cost and time effective for families. So it was a wonderful aha moment, as we've heard before.
No, that's amazing. And I think, yeah, I think, you know, the thing that I see that I really love about it is the fact that your goal isn't to, if you're representing your client, your goal is not to win. Your goal is to find what is a great common ground where everyone can walk away from this and say, you know what, that's fair. You know, if there's kids involved, the kids aren't the ones that are going to end up getting punished in the whole process. It's a matter of seeing what's the best for all parties involved, and let's just, you know, let's all go down that path together,
Yes,
and get things to the finish line.
you're right. And there's even a solution for the dogs and the parrot. Everybody gets, it's a win-win for everybody. And so you're right. It's for me, it's really the way to go.
No, that's amazing. Now, so one thing that struck me, and again, before meeting you, I had no idea what this was, but I think it's amazing. I think you need to speak to it. Is the enhanced mediation model, and just, you know, I think it's am I right in saying that that's an alt divorce? That's your company. That's your company's coined
Yes,
term. That's your process you guys
yes,
invented or you
yes.
created.
Yes, that's correct. It's called the Alt Divorce Way, which is an enhanced mediation process. So instead of having just the one professional, myself, you would have other professionals involved. For example, because I'm a lawyer, I do the financial mediation. So I do all the support and the property pieces. And I have Melissa Lafreniere, which I understand will be or has been on one of your programs. She does the
That's right.
parenting. And she's a clinical psychologist for children. She has over 20 years. So she does all the parenting. She does all the emotional pieces. We collaborate, the two of us, to give the parties the best bang for their buck. And
Hmm.
I also have a financial divorce expert who can analyze and do projections for us, who joins the model, which is really helpful as well, because whatever scenarios in the end that the clients pick as their settlement, that person can run scenarios, like I said, over 20 years, and the parties can see, hey, you know what? We're going to be okay. Not just
Right.
okay, we're going to thrive over 20 years. So this settlement that we've chosen is the right settlement for us, because it's really difficult just looking at the numbers if it's the right settlement on the date of separation or shortly after the date of separation.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, if someone said, okay, you know, we're separating, you're going to get X, you know, thousands, you're going to get X thousands, you can maybe have a property. You look at that and go, well, okay, can I retire still? Like, what's the, you know, can I still afford life? Can I, you know, if the kids want to play hockey, can they still play hockey? Like, what,
Mm-hmm,
you know, what's happening here? So I
mm-hmm.
think like you're saying, that like to plug in these different professionals so that they can answer those questions and create these projections, at least gives people that peace of mind saying, you know what, like you said, like, yeah, life will be fine. We're going to be we're going to be okay. And we can continue doing the things we want to do, and we can still afford it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think actually getting that clarity for people is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're really scary times, and it's very rare that I get parties who are not afraid of the future. Most parties will say the same thing. We're afraid. We don't know what's going to happen. We're afraid we're going to end up in a cardboard box with our kids. It's not unreasonable to think that. So to give all this information, all these solutions to clients, it really brings down the stress levels. And it's really wonderful to see how peaceful they can become with all that information.
Yeah, I'm sure like all of a sudden you see like people are tense like this, and then all of a sudden like they get the information, they say like they just kind of relax a bit and they
It's
go,
wonderful.
okay, now we can breathe a little bit, like, you know?
Yes, yes. And also, it's wonderful to see parties maybe 6 months down the line, because I do non-traditional law. I often see my clients at the shopping center 6 months, a year, 2 years, and they're thriving. And
That's
I
amazing.
wish I could bring that on camera with me every time, so I could, show other clients, say, yes, yes, it's not, I'm not, because they always say, oh yeah, you're paid to say that it's going to be okay. But no, no, it's really going to be okay. I mean it. I've seen it. So
Yeah,
I wish I could have all those clients with me when I'm doing Zooms and say, look, these people
yeah,
are doing okay.
yeah, that's right. It's almost like, yeah,
More than
I don't,
okay.
it'd be hard, I think, to get like a video testimonial for people because it's just such a private matter.
Oh, of
But
course. Of course.
I think people have to just take your word for it and say, listen, like,
Yes.
you've done this, like, like hundreds of thousands of times, like
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be fine. Like you've seen the process unfold many times ahead of you. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that caught me was, so I'm going to read it here. You said, Natalie believes that most divorces are 80% emotional and 20% legal. So does that mean like the law part of it's not as important, and you're focusing more on kind of like the coaching or the like the mental emotional part of things in the process more than legal, or what do you mean by that?
The law is just as important as the emotional component. What I mean by that is that the traditional lawyers or the adversarial system doesn't take into consideration any of the emotional pieces. I've had lawyers say to me, well, Natalie, feelings have nothing to do with the law or family law. And I'm just shocked every time I hear that, because yes, they do. And it's actually a big part. And that's why I say it's maybe 75%, 80%. Without doing therapy, you need to deal with the emotional components. And that's why I have somebody like Melissa who can deal with the emotional components. Sometimes parties they're just not ready, or one of the parties is not ready to embark on a process. So Melissa and I look at that together, and perhaps we can recommend divorce coaching to get the parties, if there's no emergency, of course, to get the parties ready for a process, because otherwise the process is not going to work, and that's not what we want. So that's what I mean by looking at the emotional component. Yes, the law is as important, but it's not 100% of a process. It's only a small portion, I believe.
That makes total sense to me, and I mean it's that enhanced mediation model, like the alt divorce way. I love the fact that depending on the situation, it just seems like you have different people you can kind of pull into the mix as you
Mm-hmm.
need them to service the client. So it's almost like you have an arsenal of tools in your tool belt that you just decide, and you grab whichever one you need, depending on that client's unique needs or the
Yes.
requirements for the process.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I always discuss with the clients up front. I discuss with them and I say, this is what I believe. This is my professional opinion. I believe that X would be better suited to deal with this with Y. What do you guys think? And
Mm-hmm.
the parties will most likely, most of the time, they will say, yes, Natalie, let's have one of those. Sometimes it's a certified business valuator that we need. So we pull one of those in. Sometimes we don't need one. Things are simpler than we think. So it's really about having the right professional for the right matter.
No, it makes complete sense. So tell us, I mean, the last question I'll throw at you. I know you've carved out time and you're super busy, but one other question that's just, burning in my mind is, so if I'm a client of yours that wants to, reaches out for the very first time, walk me through, like, what's the onboarding process, or what happens after they might send you that first email? Like, what can they expect with the process when it gets started?
Normally what I do, I offer a free 30-minute intro session. So, and during the first 30 minutes, most people think we're going to talk about what happened, talk about the parties, talk about the kids. We will get to the kids, of course, but what we do is we talk about process. There's 5 processes in family law, and it's important that upfront we talk about processes. Which process is going to be the right process for you? What personalities are at play? What's your former spouse like? What's the other lawyer like? Not every process works for every family. So it's really about picking the process. That's what I do. And I give some informational advice or informational legal information during that first session. But it's a lot about talking about the process. And then the other party goes back and speaks to their husband or their wife about what I've said. I give them a chart of the different processes, and they get back to me about which process they'd like to embark on. And then I
Gotcha.
send
Okay.
them the documents.
And do you have people that'll come into your office, or whether it be a Zoom or in person, that after a couple of minutes of chatting with them, that the process, like this style of law is just not going to work for them, and that it's the relationship's not suited to it, or do you think there's always a way to make it work, and you just got to find the right process?
Not everybody is suited for mediation. Just this week I had parties that were not suited, and I was upfront with them. I said, my professional opinion is that this is not going to work for you, but that's my professional opinion. I would recommend X as a better option for the two of you. That happens once in a while, but I'm really upfront with the clients because it's important to pick the right process. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You're going to waste your time and money.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's no point in wasting your time, their time, and their money
No, of
to
course not.
find an answer you already know the answer to.
Exactly. But we do with non-traditional processes, we do a lot of screening. We talk to parties, we ask questions, we talk to them, and we're able to tell them, well, not 100%. Of course, like I said before, it's my professional opinion. Another professional may have another opinion, but in my opinion, if it's not going to work, I'm going to tell you. And also, a lot of people think that the adversarial approach, because of the movies, because of what they've heard,
Yeah.
is really what they need. But often when we discuss realities, we discuss costs, we discuss time, we discuss what really is going to happen. They realize that it's maybe what they want, but it's not what they need. So often it's very, very rare. There's only recently, in the last few years, there's been really one client that I wasn't able to convince, or he was not convinced that what I was doing would work for him. And I said, great, I've got just a few lawyers that I can recommend. Here you go. And off he went. And he was really happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I guess you can't you can't put what do they say, like a round peg in a square hole, or whatever it
No,
is. Like, you can't do that to any
no,
degree. But
no, no.
um, the one thing you mentioned there that just piqued my interest was, you said cost. So am I right to think that going through the adversarial method is more expensive typically, and might even be much more expensive than going through the mediation collaborative law process?
Oh, yes, it's much more expensive. It's spending $100,000 per party
Come on.
without, and this is no trial,
Wow.
is not unheard of. And
Wow.
professionals don't tell you that, right? So yes, it's extremely expensive. not only is it expensive, it's expensive financially, but emotionally. Most people, I say to people that I don't recommend that they do court, I say to them, you know what? Your dog's going to need a therapist. You're going to need a therapist. Your spouse is going to need a therapist. The kids are going to need therapists. Is this what you really want on top
Yeah.
of the cost? It's really, really difficult. So
Jeez, those costs are wild.
yeah, yeah,
I never would have thought it'd be into that range.
yeah, it's not unheard of. And I really level with parties and I tell them exactly what they're in for. And if they decide that that's what they want to do, then I don't do any court anymore. So I refer them elsewhere.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate. I mean, if you did that for a few years, like you're saying, you lived in a courtroom for a couple of years, you know, it's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
enough time in the boxing ring that
yeah,
you're good not going back in again.
yeah. I totally agree.
Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much. That's all the questions that I had, but I think we covered a lot of good ground to give people a sense on, you know, what collaborative law is and mediation, you know, what alt divorce or your company, what alt divorce is all about. And that the alt divorce way, like the enhanced mediation model to me just makes so much sense. Because I think what it does, you know, from what you said is it puts everyone involved ahead of the emotions and allows you to just focus on what's going to be best for everyone. Let's just all get to that better place together. So I think that makes just so much sense.
Hmm. Yes, well, you're preaching to the converted.
All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it and have a great day.
You're welcome. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.